to Inner Peace Better Health, where mind, body, and soul find common ground. I am your host, Shreya. Today we meet Douglas Ell, MIT trained mathematician, theoretical scientist, renowned attorney, and author of Counting to God. Once a firm atheist, Douglas spent decades exploring the intersection of science, reason, and faith, only to discover that the deeper he went, the more peace he found in the divine. If you have ever wrestled with reconciling the logic with belief, this episode might just open a new path within you. So, welcome, Douglas. I'm honored to have you on my show.
It's an honor to be here. Thank you very much.
And your journey from atheism to faith isn't one we hear often. So, what was the tipping point that first made you pause and question your assumption?
Great question. I was raised in a Christian family, but when I got to high school, I thought science was contrary to faith. From what I read, I think a lot of people feel that way. And it's actually um, not a modern problem. If you go back, I'm looking at Paul's letter, First Timothy, or Paul's letter to the Romans, and he talks about false science. He talks about claiming to be wise, they became fools. Read First Romans. Um, so, but I fell into it, and I felt it took away some of my inner peace. Because I didn't think there was a moral authority. I didn't think there was a God. I thought it was stupid to believe in God. So let's fast forward if we could now. Uh, after MIT, I'm in my early 30s and my son is born. And my wife says we ought to get the kid baptized. And me being a diehard atheist, I very quickly said, yes, dear. I mean, who needed that fight when you're married? So we went to get my son, whose name was Matthew, baptized. And, right there, I saw that those people had an inner peace that I was missing in that church. And I knew I wanted it. And I was doing very well professionally and financially. But I felt that this inner peace was much more valuable than anything the world could give me outside. But I told myself, so that was the tipping point that started my journey. Then I told myself that, Doug, being from MIT and studying math and physics all those years, you shouldn't believe in God unless you could find evidence. Because I was a bit of a stubborn convert. I didn't go easily. And so I started looking into it. And the more I found, the more it amazed me.
Yes, and thank you for sharing your story. This is really wonderful. And did your background in law and science make it harder or more enriching to explore the belief in a higher power?
It made it harder to get started because, there's so much nonsense out there and such blindness in our academic institutions about science and God. So it took me a while to get started. But once I got started, my legal training, my logic, my math, what I knew about science made it pretty, I don't know if easy, but really helped me. Let's put it that way. Really helped me find all this incredible evidence for God. And so I feel now called to try to help people understand that it's not dumb to have faith. That it's, you're not just seeking God out of some naive, I want to be happy thing, but there really is a God, and science proves there's a God. It's, and you don't have to give away inner peace just because you think that the world is contrary to God, which is what you read a lot in the paper. So it's hard to, they have all this nonsense about Darwin and stuff like that, which has all been disproved scientifically. And there's so much wonder.
Yes, yes, and that openness to re-examine what we know is such a rare intellectual courage, and you walked it with depth. And also in counting to God, you bridge cutting-edge science with spirituality. So, what specific discovery impacted you most profoundly on this path?
Sure. Now I'm going to get a little technical, so you interrupt and stop me if you have questions. But scientists, are you familiar with the idea of a digital code?
Yeah.
We are now talking uh, over the internet using digital code, meaning the computers process all the information, the sound, pictures, into little tiny bits of information, which they process and they send electronically back and forth between our computers so we can talk to each other. Just digital code is just code that comes in units. Like writing is a digital code. Okay, there's these special symbols and they stand for something. So even though people not might not be familiar with use the phrase digital code every day, I mean you see it in the world. So everything people have modern world is built on digital code, writing, computers, so forth, cell phones, all of that is digital. Now, what people discovered is that all of life is also built on digital code. Okay. Um, and this is not, nobody argues about this. It's called DNA for short. And it's a code with 4 letters. Okay. And the letters are special, very special groups of atoms. All right. And what I realized was that you can't get these codes in the right order to build any kind of life by chance. You see, being a mathematician, I'm very familiar with probabilities and what you can do and what you can't do. The odds of getting the codes, but stirring up things and getting the codes in the right order is beyond belief. Okay. Are you familiar with the concept of a Powerball lottery? It's well, in the United States, I call it's a tax on the mathematically challenged. It's uh, people buy these tickets and their chances of winning are 1 in 1 billion. Okay, one in a number with 9 zeros. And in 1964, a Yale scientist calculated the odds of life starting by chance as less than you or I winning that lottery 9 billion times in a row. Okay. So, I mean, it's so hugely, hugely way out of line, impossible in this universe or any universe to get life by chance. And every kind of animal we've also found has very special digital code. So, on a cell phone, people have apps. So if you want to get your cell phone to do something new, you download the app, right? And an app is digital code. You have to add new digital code into your cell phone, and then it does something new. Now, life works the same way. Every kind of animal has new digital code that's not in any other kind of animal. You can't get it by chance. So this discovery of DNA, I mean, for example, it's just overwhelming. It's beyond doubt. Human beings have 3.2 billion, again, a number with 9 zeros, 3.2 billion letters of code in almost every one of our 30 trillion. A trillion is a number with 12 zeros, at least in the US, cells. And this code, that's like, imagine a very thick book where it has two columns of reading on each page. The pages are thin, and it's still a very, very thick book. Now imagine 1,000 of those stacked one on top of another. Okay, that's how much code we have in almost every one of our cells, and we have far more cells than there are stars in the galaxy. Um, and all of that code there is amazing technology that reads the code, it operates and builds the parts we need. They're called proteins. So if I could just continue that analogy, if you don't mind, in 2011, there were 400 worldwide scientists. They were on this project called the ENCODE project. Okay. And the goal was they had a huge government funding, and they were trying to figure out what's in human DNA code. So they were trying to crack the human code, if you will. And they found some absolutely astonishing things. They found, first of all, contrary to what people at the time thought, most people thought, was that the code is basically fully functional. We don't understand a lot of what it does, but it's all doing something, is what they found. And so how did that happen by chance? They also found that the code contains, and remember, this is 400 scientists worldwide, top people. The code contains at least 2 levels of information. And how to build a code that has 2 levels of information is amazing. I mean, Bill Gates, the founder of Microsoft, a pretty fantastic coder, he said that DNA is like computer code, only far, far more complicated than anything human beings have ever built. We have this code in us. All life has this code in us. So they found that the code works, all fully functional. It has at least 2 levels of information. And they found astonishing facts. They found out that in this code, we each have 4 million switches that turn our parts in our body systems on and off. The switches make you sleep, but they say, okay, you don't need any more of this part. Stop making it, body. We have in our bodies, we have trillions of things that are biological 3D printers. Have you heard of the concept of a 3D printer?
I've heard the word, but not about more the concept.
Yeah, it's just, it's an amazing device that you feed in a code and the machine will build something, not just put on a piece of paper. It will build a part. It will build a hammer. It will build, whatever you need, depending on what it has to build stuff out of the materials there. So it's a machine that builds parts. You can build a hammer, a screwdriver. People are already using it, and it's growing rapidly. Our body has 3D printers. Okay, that's what builds from the code what we need to live. So, I mean, that's just one thing. In my books, I give more, and I've got a new book out. It's called The God Proofs, if I may mention it, and it's aimed at a younger audience, more like teenagers, and it's a graphic novel, which is basically a cartoon book. If you've seen those, it's got pictures, incredible illustrator, and it hits these concepts very simply. And I did it with a institute out in Seattle, Washington, in the United States here, that has all these scientists that look into these the scientific evidence for God. I'm very proud of it because I think it's reaching younger people.
Yes, yes. And thank you for sharing this with our listeners because I think this is a very complex topic that you have just explained so beautifully and so easily. And I just hope that there are more interesting facts in the book that we can find and the book just you have shared and mentioned. And also, like many people feel torn between science and religion, as if they must choose one. So why do you believe this is a false dichotomy?
That is another great question. And I think it depends on the person. But in my experience, a lot of people don't want there to be a God. They don't want to think that there's a higher moral authority. There's this modern society thing that you should do whatever you want. Um, don't, there's no right or wrong. Anything you want to do is good. Well, if there's a God, that's not true. And, maybe you should pray. Maybe you should go to church. Maybe you should read the Bible or whatever inspires you. And people don't want there to be a God. That's one thing, I think, to answer your question. I think a second thing is the disease that gripped me when I was young, which is this thing of I don't want to be stupid about this. All these so-called smart people are telling me that I don't need God, that the science is contrary to God. They've come up with all these stupid theories to try to explain how all this technology is in animals. Are you familiar with Darwin's theory? You know
Yes.
that, and you know, none of the top biologists believe that anymore. They all know it doesn't work. That you can't get all this new technology by accident, but they're not willing to give up that theory because if they did, they'd have to admit they've been wrong all these decades, and they'd have to believe in God. So they are stuck in blindness. So those are my two main reasons. I think is some people don't want there to be a God, and some people think it's stupid to believe in God. Um, but to me, science is about seeking the truth. It's not about trying to uh, it's trying to figure out what the right answer is. And the evidence for design in all of life is unbelievable. And I have just scratched the surface, uh, just scratched. There is so much more there. And it's not just biology. Okay. There is no scientific, contrary to what you also read, there's no scientific explanation for why anything exists. Okay.
Mm.
Uh, one of the most fundamental laws of physics, if I could get into physics just a little bit, I know we're running out of time, but one of the most fundamental laws of physics is called the first law of thermodynamics, which is a really long, complicated name, but it basically means you can't create or destroy stuff. Matters, stuff being matter and energy. Now you can melt a little matter into energy. Think of atomic bombs, okay? Very special stuff. But the total amount of matter and energy in the universe cannot be changed. That is the first law of thermodynamics, one of the most powerful laws in physics. So why does anything exist if it couldn't have been created without God? You've got something outside of this universe that created this universe. That's consistent with belief. Okay. Also, people say they used to think 100 years ago that, well, the universe has always existed. You can't create it. But uh, that's false too. There's another law, the second law of thermodynamics, that says everything is running downhill. The and everybody's familiar with that, and that things rot. And without a mind, everything gets messed up. Okay. And so now people know that the universe had a beginning, but they can't explain it using the laws of science. And the laws of physics are also, they found, and I'm getting a little bit more technical, but I'll be really quick on this point. All the laws of physics, from the strength of gravity to the speed of light, are precisely designed to create a universe that allows life to exist. So not only are we designed, not only is every bit of life designed, from the smallest bacteria or whatever, but the universe was created and designed for life. And these, to me, are undeniable scientific facts. So I, there, to get back to inner peace, I mean, people don't have to give up belief or faith because of science. People should hold science as a flag and be proud of it, that it is now supporting faith.
Yeah. And that invitation to rethink and not to reject is where the real transformation often begins, also. And also, now that you have found peace in your faith, how has that changed your health, relationships, or day to day mindset?
Oh, it's changed me totally. Um, I wake up now, instead of wanting to earn money or stuff like that. I mean, I wake up now with prayer. Uh, I instead of trying to act important, I try to act humble, uh, and I'm just enjoying life so much more. It's like, you could probably describe it better than me, but it's a whole new feeling when you base your life on faith. You try to do what God wants you to, and the material things of this world will never make you happy, no matter how much you have. I feel sorry for some people that have so much money, because you can see how miserable they are.
Mm.
And there's no amount of money you can make that'll give you inner peace. And it's just totally rearranged my priorities and made me very thankful. I think, and I'm grateful. Gratitude is one of the most important things to have in life. So it has changed my life, and I hope others will somehow get this message, that all of the modern world, in my view, all of the science, and again, I just scratched the surface on some of this. It says that there is a God, and that with that, I think it can help people towards peace.
Yes, yes. And thank you for sharing all your knowledge, all your experience. This is a wonderful conversation with you. And if my listeners want to connect with you, then what's the best way?
Sure. I would invite them to my website. Okay. It's the title of my book, firstbook.com. So it's Counting to God, all one word, .com. Uh, if they put in my name on Amazon, they'll find the 4 books I've written, including one of them is a novel, including the most recent graphic novel, The God Proofs. Uh, if they go to my website, they can connect with me there. They could also email me directly, which is my initials, DWE at GROOM.com. And I would love to hear from people. And if people do read my books and like them, I would ask they give me a good review on Amazon, because those are important, trying to spread the word about God and peace.
Yes, yes. And I will make sure to attach all the details and links below so that the listeners can find them easily and get in touch with you and listen more from you, because the knowledge you just shared today is immense. And thank you for taking us on this brave and brilliant journey. And your story reminds us that peace isn't about abandoning logic, it's about expanding the lens through which we see the truth. And to all my listeners, Don't be afraid to ask hard questions. Sometimes they are the very doorway to the peace you seek. Keep exploring, stay curious, and may your inner world stay as expansive as the universe itself.